How do we even start a video like this off when discussing something as taboo, as vile as the 5 sinners, ones who betrayed not just their nation, but the entire world? With hubris and vanity flowing through their veins, they sought the abyss and through greed brought ruin not just to their nation, but nearly to all of Teyvat. And had it not been for Celestia and our beloved sustainer of heavenly principles, they would have. So how then do we start this video off? How about a quote? Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. Friedrich Nietzsche. A man who, second to none, had his words so brutally misrepresented. The 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah, beings with dark powers, each possessing the strength to shatter the world. The true villains of the game. Look, all I'm saying is their combined kill count's gotta be through the roof, man. Rhinedottir's creatures during the Cataclysm, Surtalogi's whale during Fontaine, Vedrfolnir's Abyss Order. I mean, dude, it all comes around in the end. I'm trying to decide how I want to do this, though. Do I want to try and say their names or let Dain do it? Here, I'll do this. I'll try and say their names, but if it sounds like too trolly, dude, we're not gonna have another Jababalenk incident or Kakovshka. It's not happening again. If it sounds too trolly, I'll cut it and let Dain play it. So let's see which rendition makes the final cut of the video.
The Wise Hroptatyr, the Visionary Vedrfolnir, Gold Rhinedottir, the Foul Surtalogi, and Rächer of Solnari, Rerir.
I want us all to keep something in mind, and it's this rhetoric coming from Dain's lips. Although I guess it isn't really rhetoric as much as, well, he straight up said he wants to run the ones with each and every single one of them. I don't know, it's nice to finally see someone who knows what's going on attribute the mess in Khaenri'ah to more than just the gods or the divine, as up until now, while it had been implied heavily, Khaenri'ah bore a lot of the responsibility for the Cataclysm. Now we have a much clearer, albeit still blurry picture of what's really happened. There were once 6 great figures in Khaenri'ah, the best of the best. They were each the zenith of their crafts, but then the Venster king, who should be King Irmin, was rocking the foundations of this world, and while the 6 of them should have stopped him, all of them but Dain couldn't resist the call of the abyss, so it sounds like they made a dark pact with one another and divided the power amongst themselves, in turn becoming transcendent beings with world-shattering power. Alright, a couple things. The Venster King, we know very little about King Irmin, other than he was the final king of Khaenri'ah in the Eclipse dynasty. Now, the big thing we do know about Irmin is he was indeed rocking at the foundations of this world. In an unknown letter in the desert, someone wrote, quote, "Of course, I am keenly aware that the 4 pillars of our kingdom have achieved the prosperity they have today, precisely thanks to us spying upon seekers from beyond the skies, and thus have our mechanisms been able to throw off the shackles imposed by this world's laws." Furthermore, Piero himself wrote, quote, "Since my level of learning could not compare with the sages, I failed to earn the favor of the previous rulers. So too did I fail to stop them from tearing away the veil of sin, ushering in a tide of divine wrath, destruction, and foolishness." Now, naturally, this all sounds like it could have been crack for dragons, otherwise known as forbidden knowledge, given we know there was a surge of it during the Cataclysm, and it's not like, you know, that shit just grows on trees. Guys, crack must be built, manufactured, distributed, supplied, utilized. Doesn't grow on trees, my friends, doesn't grow on trees. And really quick, since we're on the fucking topic of Piero, I've seen some say Piero could be the Wise. Alright, well, I gotta step up to the plate and get this name right. Hroptatyr. Hey, that was actually pretty good. I've never really been convinced that he could be Hroptatyr, given, you know, Dain says Hroptatyr was one who sought the abyss, whilst Piero had always been opposed to it, as we just read. That little tangent aside, one thing I want to make note of was Dain stating that those 5 became transcendent ones, which is exactly the terminology used by his brother.
You need no longer hold back your resentment, nor accept the countless lies. Go forth, become a transcendent one. Rise beyond the fate bestowed upon you.
So I mean, if dabbling in the abyss is what led old Vedrfolnir here to become a transcendent one, kinda sounds like he wants everyone to drink the Kool-Aid, huh? Oh, Jim Jones-looking motherfucker. Anyway, I suppose we should go over the other sinners. What the fuck? That's what the video's about. So there's 2 names on this list we genuinely haven't heard of once before, and they are the Wise Hroptatyr and Rerir of Solnari Rächer. Following, that's a fucking alliteration, tongue twister, onomatopoeia, Ebola, the library, congenital, dude, like vernacular, I don't know. Who names their little nigga that, bro? Anyway, following Khaenri'ah lore, both these names are derived from Norse mythology. Hroptatyr is another name for Odin, and it means sage. Now, given Hroptatyr has the title of the Wise, he could very well be one of the sages who Piero said he couldn't compare to. And keep in mind, we know how Piero feels about sages.
The sages think themselves to be all-knowing, but we alone are wise to the virtue in those acts of folly.
So this Hroptatyr could very well have been the lead sage of some institution, maybe the Universitas Magistrorum, egging King Irmin to keep exploring the abyss. Now, as for Rerir of Solnari Rächer, there's a bunch going on here. Most importantly, this character's identity seems heavily tied into the idea of vengeance. Rerir is the German word for avenger, and in Norse mythology, Rerir is a king whose story was about seeking vengeance as he avenged his father's death. Now, as for Solnari, this part's a bit sus. I couldn't find anything that's like a clean translation, but if we break the word up, we get Sol, which is Latin for sun, and what do you know? There's a sun goddess in Norse mythology whose name is Sol. As for Nari, that's another name for Narfi, a son of Loki. Now get ready for a fucking yoga Pilates stretch, everyone, as I try to make a connection between Nari and the Crimson Moon Dynasty. Nari wasn't really anything special in Norse mythology, but he was the brother of Fenrir, who himself was a parent of Hati, who, as we all know, chased or hunted the moon. Now, wouldn't it shock you to learn in CN, Rerir of Solnari Rächer, his name translates to Moon Hunter, which is also interesting given the connection between vengeance and the moon, and Khaenri'ah is a strong one, given the Crimson Moon Dynasty sought vengeance against the Eclipse Dynasty. Quotes, the original calamity had been overturned, yet the island in the sky set the earth to burn. Chalk pursues gold. At this time inopportune, the Eclipse Dynasty is swallowed by the Crimson Moon. And now whether or not this little nigga was a op for the Crimson Moon Dynasty, I suppose we'll have to wait and see. But that's as far as I can go with these two, man. Even that Solnari shit was a fucking stretch and a half, man. Might have tore our hamstring here, boys. Skull is the one who chases Sol, dog. Whatever. Now, as for the other 3 sinners, we know varying levels of information about them. Vedrfolnir, we still don't know an incredible amount. Complete speculation on my part, but I'm willing to bet the self-proclaimed prophet who gave Dain's intro quote was him. In Norse mythology, Vedrfolnir is a hawk that sits atop a so I mean, he sees far, like a visionary that sees far. Get it? Metaphor. It's nice. In Teyvat, Vedrfolnir is Dain's older brother and is first and foremost one of the 2 named visionaries we have in the game, with the other being Mona's master and fellow Hexenzirkel resident, Barbala. The definition of what a visionary is but a simple one. Someone who's capable of reading the fates of the entire world.
What I can tell you is that I'm an astrologist, and that this prophecy concerns the fate of Fontaine, even that of all Teyvat. Ascertaining this is akin to reading the fortune of the whole world. I'm afraid that this is not something that just anyone can do. If I could do it, you would no longer call me an astrologist, but a visionary. But on the flip side, the prophecy is so huge and powerful that it must surely come from a powerful visionary. Its contents involve the fate of the world.
So it does now seem like Vedrfolnir was indeed the one who read Fontaine's prophecy, but when he did, that's who he shared it with and how is unknown. It may have had something to do with Egeria, given, she's familiar with prophecies of the divine and knows how unavoidable they are, and given she committed a sin and saw how displeased Celestia was, I'm sure she just looked up and went, niggas are not happy up there. I know some shit's coming, I just don't know what. Better go find me a visionary. I'm sure something like that went down. I don't know, though. I don't like the idea of Rächer meeting with Khaenri'ah scum. We also don't really know how he became the crystal. It can't have been a side effect of messing with the Abyss. Rhinedottir came out fine. Surtalogi probably came out fine. I mean, fucking Rhinedottir continued to have tea parties with the Hexen circles. well, what's this foolishness about? Furthermore, looking back at his Sinner appearance, his words paint an interesting picture given we now know he is a visionary. So when he says, "I know your fates well," I mean, the nigga literally means he knows their fate, dog. And him urging whoever it was to become a transcendence one like he did may have something to do with abyssal tampering. He wants that shit to just spread like a virus. Aside from this brief interaction between our sibling and Vedrfolnir, at some points the two decided to share in some sort of plan, of which Dain is convinced we must stop, or else the entire world will suffer. The next sinner is the foul Surtalogi, Skirk's master and whale aficionado. All we know about old chap here is he seems to reside in the Abyss. Aside from that, we don't know much about this fella. Well, he's a guy, we know that. Oh yeah, what was this? What does title translate to again? Extreme Evil Demon King? Some hilarious shit, man. The final sinner is Gold Rhinedottir, one who created many beings with her abyssal powers. I won't lie, learning Rhinedottir has world-shattering powers. Ugh, scary stuff, man. That Hexen circle, I'm telling you. Motherfuckers are not to be trifled with. Also, ain't it funny, Rhinedottir knows two visionaries? What are the odds, man? Anyway, Rhinedottir is an alchemist who's the only person to have truly mastered the arts of Khaenri'ah, an alchemical process centered around creating life. But this bitch, you know, she made the wrong kind of life, niggas. So someone should have told her, all lives do not matter. All lives do not matter. Anyway, that about does it for what we know about the sinners. Dain, I guess, was the only good boy of the six. What were the six called, by the way? Do we know? No. Although this might be a biased perspective, my friend, seeing as all this info is coming from Dain himself. But in my book, Dain is a cool page. For those wondering about the connection between the group and the Pale Princess and Six Pigamies, I have absolutely no fucking idea what you're talking about, because that book still only has one volume.